Sorry about that split there. I decided to change something. I started going down the path of explaining how, you could do this and it becomes complicated. And then I thought, in the real world, I would do this differently. So why not show you how I would really do this in the real world? So I'm going to back up a little bit and undo a little bit of what I've done. And I had a choice to make. I could have said, well, I don't want them to see me goofing up, and I want them to think of me as, this guy who knows so much about SSIS and would never make a mistake. Or I could show you how real developers develop in the real world, and I usually opt for number two, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to back out. I'm going to stop. Or I'm going to show you why I'm going to back out first, and then we're going to come redo our packages to make them even a little more flexible. Here's the problem that we run into. So for our arguments, remember that the arguments for our, I could see them right there. Remember this, okay? So we've got a hard-coded file name here that we need to make dynamic. Well, the challenge really is that this is not passed in anywhere. So for example, our only variable is remote file and path, or remote file and path here. So for us to figure out that this is a zip file, we have to remove all of this. So you just go away and extract just this bit of information and then put that at the root of the C drive. And in the real world, that's probably not how it would really work. Here's what it would really be in the real world. I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff. I'm still in the child package. I'm going to say remote path would be a string, and that would be chapter 6. And then I would have remote file would be a string, and that would be purely the actual name of the file. And then I would have local path would be a string, and that would be this. And so I know I shouldn't hit save. What did I just do? Did I just define those variables at that level? I hate it when I define the variables at the wrong scope. It's so easy to do. I need to be at the package scope. So remote path slash chapter 6. But I mean, this is real world right here. There are many times where you start down the path of creating this ultra elegant solution, and halfway through you realize, dang it, I just messed up. It's going to be a lot of work to fix it. Do I pay the penalty now, or do I have to deal with this junky package for the rest of my life? Well, I'm choosing to pay the price now. Local path would be here. Okay. Now I know, thank you. I need to set up everything correctly. So for my FTP task now, I need to change my expression for the remote path to be, instead of remote path and variable, I need this to be, where's my remote path? Remote path plus remote file. So that altogether it comes up with that. And now, because I have remote file in a single location, I can pass that into my process task. So I say OK, and we would go to our connection manager for our local file. You see it's set to be C. Well, we want to change that to be local path variable. So we need to go to the properties over here, set this up here to be the connection string, and set that to be our local path, which is not going to change anything because it's the same. And now in our execute process tasks expression, now we can actually make this fairly simple. So we go to the arguments. Our expression has got to be, because it's a string, it needs to be in double quotes. We're going to cobble this together. So now give me the file name, the local path, plus the file name. Where's my remote file name? And then space, lowercase o, and then the local path. And I'll explain this here. You can see that it cobbles together, concatenates this to be exactly what we had typed in, except that it's now dynamic. So I've got now a more flexible package. I can change a lot more of the moving parts, if you will, without having to break the package. The last step that I have to go to here is to go to the parent and make sure that I've changed. I've got two steps here. I've got to go add these in my package configurations to map to the parent. So I've got to go to the parent and say, what's the remote file name you want to download and what's the remote path you want to do. Okay? And I'd probably pass in the local path too. So I'm going back to the parent package, removing the remote file name, and just say remote file be the string, and that would be like orders 2010.03.01.zip. Remote path 6, and then local path. Let's see, and it's not going to like that because it's not a string data type. Okay, you got that with me so far? So now I need to go, I just basically made the variables the exact same from parent to child. I need to go to my child, and I need to go to my package configurations, and I need to yank this one out. You're gone. And I need to add in the remote path. I just basically need to do this once per. So for each variable. And that the parent remote path maps up to the child remote path. Okay, so remote path. Do this again for the parent remote file. Maps up to the child variable remote file. And I didn't name it, but that's fine. And finally, the local path variable at the parent maps to the local path variable here in the child. Okay? So I've done the exact same thing here. The second part, remember we had to do number one was make this expression based. Number two is dealing with this constraint. What if the parent doesn't pass in a zip file? Do you want this to execute? What if the parent passes in a text file? You don't want that to work, do you? So you really only want this to work if the path, if this particular, let's move it over here. If this value ends in .zip, you want that to run. But if it ends in anything else, you don't want it to run. Okay, question for you. See how much you learned from chapter 5. How can we do that? Edit. Instead of it being a constraint, make it an expression. Now you could make this an expression and constraint so that you could say only once the FTP task is successful and this is a zip file. That's actually how I would set this up. Now the tricky part here is writing the expression. Unfortunately, you don't get your expression builder. What we need to know is the name of the variable. So we say user remote file name. That's the name of our variable. And we want the last 4 digits, or the last 4 characters, if they equal .zip. Well, you can use the write function. Okay. And unfortunately, I can't fit that all on here, but there is a write function that gets the farthest right 4 characters of this expression. So if our remote file name is orders 2010.03.01.zip, what are the 4 right characters? They're .zip. And do those equal .zip? If the answer is true and the previous download was successful, then we want to execute the extraction. So test this, make sure it works, and I've got a problem. What did I do here? I got something wrong. Oh, I got at sign right there. Sorry. The at sign, not the at. And I've done something. What did I do? When I get into situations like this, I don't know what I've. There it is. I didn't read that. There we go. I've got my file, my variable font wrong. I think it's just remote file. That's all it is. Um, Copy, cancel, variables, remote file. That was it. Edit, uh, success, and just remote file. There we go. Ah, there we go. Did you see the function showing us that now we have a combination here? It's green showing success and a function. Let's fire it up. And I am attaching this so that you can see it. Let's delete these guys. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's pass in just a plain old text file, txt. Not even use the zip. So let's do it. Call stack sends this to the child. Will it execute the execute process task? No, it didn't end in .zip. And so you can see it did successfully download that file. As soon as we come back to the parent and change the parent, so I'm here with the parent, to be a zip file, let's run this. Sends us to the call stack. The FTP task ends successfully, and then it executes the execute process. And voila, it's done our bidding for us. Very cool. Now I know that this was one of the more complicated videos, and like I said, I had to back out and change my strategy a little bit. So it might be worthwhile rewinding or watching a little bit more of this again. This is in the real world. This is just how people develop. You think you've got some easy way to do it, and then as you get developing it and you get a little deeper, you realize, boy, it sure would work a lot easier if I did it the other way. And so it's okay to back out and realize, hey, I need to go change it up just a little bit.